Okay, well, hi everyone. This is different from the other videos I've made. I just thought it would be a great idea to, make an explanation video of the PTU handbook. Only because I myself have struggled understanding the PTU system, and I don't see a lot of YouTubers making videos explaining about it. So I was thinking of explaining each section in separate videos just so that if anyone who is interested in holding a campaign that follows the PTU handbook, then they can refer to this. And plus, it's a lot of reading, and there are many parts in the handbook that can be confusing. I myself am still learning new stuff about it. So, but I was thinking in the first video we can talk about the character creation. So let's go to that first. Okay, so when you first make a trainer, you should really think about what type of personality your character would be. Whether they are a helpful one or mischievous, etc. And then you could decide, what classes you might want for your character. Now, I'm going to briefly talk about classes in this video, but this is mostly about character creation. The classes will be in a separate video, most likely. But from my campaign right now, as some of you may have been watching, the characters are able to have 4 classes. But just to make it simple for my players, since all 5 of us were new to it and are still new to the stuff from the handbook, I decided to just let them have 2 classes in the meantime, and maybe consider letting them learn 2 more classes. It's just to make sure that they're used to using their classes and such. So yeah, it really depends on the game master too, whether they have a good grasp of how to run the campaign under the PTU system. So yeah, like I said, think about personality, and then you gotta think about a background for your character. Good character should have a background, just so that your game master and other players that you may be playing with get to know what type of character yours is. And it helps the game master, plan certain scenarios that would give spotlight to your character and allow other players to interact with your character better. The most important thing in a campaign is that everyone gets to interact with each other. There's not so much awkwardness and stuff. So then we move on to skills, which I'm gonna briefly talk about it in this video too. All these stuff that you're going to need to build your character, they're just going to be talked about briefly, and in the other videos I'll talk more into detail about that. Skills are, if you're familiar with the other type of D&D, like the D&D Beyond rules, you are probably already know that your characters come with skills such as like charisma, strength, dexterity, constitution, intelligence, wisdom, those type of skills. The skills in the PTU campaign is quite different. There's a lot more skills that you would need to know. For instance, there's athletics, there's like I think there's 5 different types of educations. There's technology, Pokemon, general, occult. Can't remember the last one. But anyways, yeah, those type of skills. Those skills are what defines your character. Whether they're good at something and they're not, that defines them. Now, when you start creating your character, you usually start with one expert skill. Oh, sorry, not one expert. One adept, 3 pathetics, and 1 novice. Now, in the next browser, I'm going to show you an example of a character sheet that one of the players that used to play in my campaign but doesn't anymore created. So, if you're unfamiliar with the words like adept, novice, and pathetic in this context, I'll explain it later. But yeah, I also recommend downloading this handbook. You can find it if you search up like Pokemon Tabletop United Handbook. It will show up. There's like a link for it. It's free to download too, and it has a bunch of information. And yeah, this handbook also gives you examples in case you having a hard time understanding everything. And then there's edges and features that your character are able to learn. But that's better to be left off for a separate video because they can get complicated. And my players sometimes forget that their character can learn those 2 stuff. So after the skills, the edges, and features, you have to consider combat stats for your character. Now there's 6 combat stats. It's just like with Pokemon. There's HP, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. You may be wondering why a person can have special attacks. Well, the thing is, your character does not necessarily have to be human, quote unquote. They can be something else. You know, they could be half Pokemon or something. Or they're human but they have magical powers. So that's where the special attack comes from. So yeah, this page, it just tells you, you know, what each stats represents. And I think you start with 10 stats in total, if I remember correctly, as with your level 1. And then you could distribute that among the other stats. Yeah, so right here. So it says, start with... Oh, okay, so this one that I highlighted is the column where you have your base stats. When I use Roll20 to hold D&D campaigns, but if you use other apps, then I don't know, the sheet may come with the defaults or not, or you have to make your own sheet. Anyways, you would usually follow this first for your base stats. And then right here, just like I said, there's this other column next to the base stats where it's called allocated stats, and you would have 10 points to distribute that among the other stats, but you cannot have more than 5 points in any of this single stats. So let's say that you already put 5 points in your attack, you cannot increase that anymore while you're still level 1. And then here's the examples too. So okay. Then we move on to capabilities. Capabilities is how much your character can do. For instance, how far they can jump, how high they can jump, can they even swim, can they throw good, and power too. Can they pack a punch, or are they too weak? Those type of stuff. And then there's what you call action points. They are useful for features. And I believe you can use action points to... No, actually, yeah, you can only use action points when you're using features and when you're applying those to your Pokemons. Say in battles, for instance. A lot of features may be used in battle. They can help like boost Pokemon stats or help allies too. And about hit points, there's a thing called injuries. It's if your character or Pokemon takes a huge chunk of damage, then it would be considered that they gain an injury. Injuries are usually healed if you take a rest, or say you go to the Pokemon Center to rest and heal. But when you take an injury, that means your total HP at that time will be lowered, and it will stay that way until you do a full rest. I just have my players go to the Pokemon Center and rest to recover their injuries. And then here it says that to determine the trainer's HP, it depends on their level, multiply by 2, and then you add their HP, multiply that by 3, and then add 10 to it. And then that's how you calculate your trainer's hit points. Evasions, I think I will talk about evasions when I get to the Pokemons. When we start building a Pokemon, because it would make more sense. I don't really have my players do a lot of combats with their characters. It's mostly Pokemon combats, so that's why I think it would make more sense to talk about it in a different video. But yes, this page is where you can calculate how much your capabilities are. And I'm not gonna really explain this part. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's just a bunch of math that you have to do too. And you have to fill out the skills sections first before calculating the capabilities. And then there's this section that's just allows you to describe your trainer. The more descriptions that you write about your trainer, the better understanding that other players will understand. If you write like a short description, no one will really know what to do with your character, to be honest. So the more the better. And then choosing Pokemons, that's just for the game master to decide. And as for money and items, I let my players start with 5,000 Pokédollars, just like right here in the handbook. And then they get personal items too. At the beginning of before the campaign started, I asked if there's like any personal items that you would want your character to have. If so, just let me know. And it could be like my players, they said that they want a violin, a couple of books, and Pokedex. That's the usual. They get that from the professor. I think that is all to cover. There is a trainer progression chart too, but I'm gonna cover that when I talk about the edges and features because it would make more sense there. But this page is kind of confusing too. I'm gonna explain that in the same video as the edges and features. It's just the wording that's confusing. Yeah, these last few pages are what I'm going to talk about in the other video. But that is all for the character creation. If you guys have any suggestions on what you want me to cover in a video, like specifically, then you could let me know in the comments. Otherwise, look forward to the other videos that I'm going to make, and I'll catch you later. Bye.